Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Wednesday edition of the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Dan Labbe with Mary Kay Cabot and Ashley Bastock. We are each going to throw out a question here related to the Browns as we are getting closer and closer to the draft. We heard from some players and Kevin Stefanski on Tuesday. We'll hear from Andrew Berry on Friday. Things slowly starting to get rolling here on the 2023 season. So I was thinking, everybody, for whatever reason, all the big national news people and stuff have all been tweeting today. Only 8 days till the draft. They're getting real excited about the draft coming up. And of course, for Browns fans, it's not 8 days till the draft. It's 9 because the Browns don't have a first round pick. And I got to thinking, my question here, Mary Kay, is, does this draft actually matter? I mean, the Browns have 8 picks. They don't pick it, but they don't pick it till the third round at this point. It seems like their roster is mostly complete. It seems like most of the guys they would draft are going to be depth guys. I mean, in the sense of adding young talent, yes, it matters. But I mean, how much does this draft actually matter for this franchise?
Well, I think the jury is still out on that because last year we would never have guessed that Martin Emerson was going to step in as a third round cornerback and come in and make the kind of impact that he did. And then, I mean, obviously they had a fourth round kicker. They had a fourth round receiver that was supposed to come in and actually probably produce more than he actually ended up doing in his rookie season. So those guys really came in and made a little bit of noise and did some things. And I think that Perrion Winfrey as a fourth round pick was supposed to have a much greater impact than he ended up having. So I do think that you can look at number 74 and number 98 as two places. Those are the third round picks, as two places where they could potentially find a third round edge rusher, or maybe even a starting defensive tackle, or someone that is a key part of the rotation. So I'm going to say yes, it does matter because once again, those third round guys, you can really plug them in pretty quickly and hope to get something out of them.
Yeah, so the Martin Emerson point is interesting because, when you bring up the kicker, I kind of think, well, okay, they kind of went into the draft knowing they needed a kicker. You can make the case at receiver that they went in knowing they needed a receiver. I don't know if there's as obvious a need this year, but the Martin Emerson point, Ashley, kind of underscores you might still get somebody that you didn't necessarily expect to contribute who suddenly comes in and contributes.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about, especially third rounders, like we do say that those are guys you eventually want to be starters. Like they're not going to come in necessarily and be developed right away and be able to start right away. But you want somebody who's going to turn into something. And I mean, we've all, I think, written about at this point that the Browns and Andrew Berry haven't had a ton of consistent success with that and drafting in those mid rounds. And there's a lot of guys that, we're just kind of hanging around wondering what's going to happen to them in their third year, their fourth year, their second year, some cases. So I'm with Mary Kay. I think it matters. It just isn't like the end all be all like it has been in the past. And that's just the nature of picking in the third round versus picking in the first round, where things are a bit more in your control. When you're not picking until the 70s, a lot of dominoes have to fall before you even can kind of get an understanding of, okay, who might be the best available or the best fit around where we're picking.
Is part of it, Mary Kay, though, so sort of what I was saying, that there isn't this obvious glaring need, right? Like when we do talk needs, we're talking like third edge rusher, or we're talking, maybe linebacker or depth at offensive line, or a receiver who can contribute maybe somewhat this year and then down the road. It doesn't feel like there's a super obvious, glaring need on this team.
No, there really isn't. I mean, if they did not have a draft, and this is probably the point you are trying to make, if there were no draft happening next week, I think the Browns can go out and pretty much field the football team that they expect to field in September. Maybe one spot here or there, but they're at a point now where, they need veteran guys to play these positions. They have stocked this football team now for 3 years. and they're pretty well set. I mean, they just added like 12 free agents and re-signed a bunch of their own guys. But in terms of, filling holes and plugging holes, a lot of that has been taken care of in free agency and with the trade of Elijah Moore.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's a chance that